This Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
Insert Democrat socialist here.
Runs the Democratic House floor for 30 plus years running. He's promising this and he's stealing that. Where can you get that kind of money? He's using your house like his own piggy bank. You ought to know by now. You can pay off your house here in Illinois, but you can never keep up with the taxes. Oh, how it's always been the plan to have a taxpayer pay, no doubt. Not a matter of if anymore, but when you're moving out. I said, when you're moving out.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. That theme music means it's time for our weekly conversation with Ted Dabrowski, president of Wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related. You probably heard about that shooting that occurred at Wabash in Chicago late afternoon on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So prosecutors have charged a man with shooting a 16-year-old boy from Delaware at that corner. The 19-year-old who's charged fired several shots towards the boy on the corner of Wabash and Chicago at about 4:45 p.m. Struck the boy in the shoulder, also struck a 24-year-old man who was standing nearby.
What?
Apparently, those are still crimes. I was unsure. The CPD surveillance officer who reviewed a variety of video feeds determined the gunman had fled onto a southbound Red Line train at the state Chicago stop. I hope he stopped at 95th and Western to enjoy the DJ.
With the house music, because we're celebrating 40 years of house music. Yes.
That's why we put the DJ booth there.
Yeah.
So.
They perform Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. By the way, in case you're interested.
Mm-hmm. And the cause of this crime?
Yeah.
Cause?
Cause.
I know what you're thinking. Richard Nixon? Partially.
Silly kids.
Climate change.
Excuse me?
The Society for Environmental Journalists has partnered up with the Maynard Institute for Journalism Education. Boy, that's a great partnership. Let me tell you. I mean, when you're partnering with the Maynard Institute for Journalism Education, you're going to get some real learning happening. They hosted a webinar on Tuesday to provide data and information to journalists. Because journalists are so driven by data and contextual and consequential information. You can tell from their reporting. It's so rigorous. They this webinar to provide data and information to journalists on the connection between gun violence and extreme heat in America's 100 largest cities.
Oh, he did it because it was hot and humid out, because the heat index was above 100, right?
Climate change, this is according to research provided at the webinar, educating journalists so they can educate you.
I'll take this.
Climate change contributed to 370 additional shootings in Chicago, 285 extra shootings in New York, 146 in Detroit, 98 in Milwaukee, 83 in Minneapolis, and 64 in Philadelphia. So I'm not saying that Richard Nixon should be let off the hook with respect to the shooting at Wabash in Chicago, but also climate change, the oil and gas companies, the politicians they own, everyone, not just this 19-year-old who fired the gun, everyone who opposed the Great Society programs, even though really Richard Nixon was basically a welfare state Republican. But I digress. BLM Brandon said so. It's good enough for me. Everyone who supported Richard Nixon, everyone who supports the fossil fuel industry, works in the fossil fuel industry, votes with the fossil fuel industry, everyone should be arrested because it takes a village to commit a shooting at the corner of Chicago and Wabash.
Is the shooter going to use that as part of his defense? Your Honor, it was climate change.
I assume that one of the journalists, maybe somebody from the Innocence Project, will get this important data to the alleged shooter to make sure that he has that available as part of his defense.
Maybe they'll testify on his behalf.
Ted Dabrowski, president of Wirepoints, wirepoints.org. Ted, we're finally getting to root causes here with respect to Chicago's endemic violence.
Well, we are, and at Wirepoints, we ran those same numbers and got the exact same results. So kudos to them. of course, that's a joke.
Yeah, you got the same. You did the climate change modeling as well.
Yeah, the correlation is perfect.
Yeah,
No,
I'm sure. Yeah,
it's part of what you've been saying. It's this is the argument for limited government, what you were talking about earlier with Secret Service and all that, and it's hard to trust any of these units of government anymore because they become too big, too powerful, and they control the data. And then you pair it with media, they control the messaging, and then we have a hard time, people just knowing what the truth is. Period. Nobody knows what's going on, and it's an argument, I guess, just for limited government, and then for massive transparency from groups like you and groups like us that try to get the real data out.
It's an argument to make as much money as you can, as fast as you can, and find a little nook somewhere in a faraway land to hide. That's what it is also an argument for. But I know I know some people want to put it in the fight, like yourself.
Well, the thing is it's going to be harder and harder to find those nooks, especially with all this, technology. So you can try to hide, but and that's one of the big arguments I use for all these people who keep saying leave Illinois, and and I get it, man. I'm all for the laboratories, and everybody should go find what's best for them and the opportunity. But you're kidding yourself if just because you leave Illinois, you're going to find the perfect world somewhere else. You're going to have to fight in America no matter where you are.
Naples is pretty close, but I hear you. That's why I come back in the summers to check on how things are going.
Yeah,
and
right.
I continue to be disappointed. No, the heat and humidity doesn't bother me.
Okay.
No, that doesn't bother me. I mean, except for the violence that it induces.
Exactly.
Yeah. Interestingly,
in Florida, they're not gunning each other.
Yeah, interestingly,
down
we
because
haven't
it's hotter there.
We haven't seen the climate change to violence connection in Southwest Florida. It's interesting.
Give it time.
Yeah, of course. Right. It just hasn't happened yet. It's going to, though. No, of course. It's interesting. Heather McDonald, our friend over at Manhattan Institute, she had a good piece on Chicago crime and Democrat values. It's nothing that we haven't talked about, that you haven't written extensively about. But it's good to see that there's some national focus on Chicago now amid what we know will be the cover stories promulgated by the Pritzkers and the Brandons. You over at Wirepoints just put together a complete guide. This is pretty good. A complete guide to what Illinois and Chicago truly are, as opposed to the beautiful lies that they'll be telling each other. I saw this billboard outside of my buddy's place in over like Kingsbury Plaza, like at what Halstead and over by East Bank Club.
You're right.
It was great.
East Bank Club.
It was Illinois Democrats record job growth, big blaring billboard.
Really?
So that's a good example of what I'm talking about, and the fact that Illinois has the third highest state unemployment rate is not going to be mentioned in conjunction with that conversation. But anyway, your conventioneer's guide to truly understanding Chicago and Illinois.
Well, it's really important because this is one of the few moments where we have a chance to get some of the truth out at a national level, not one piece at a time, but with all eyes moving from the RNC now to the DNC here. You're going to hear Pritzker, and he put out this beautiful video and blamed Republicans for the messes that are in Illinois, when in fact Republicans have hardly ruled at all in the last 30 years. This is a chance for all of America to find out what's really going on, and that's why we put out that piece that just lays out across all the different issues what a failure Illinois has been, and everybody in America should know the policies that are here and what to be avoided at all costs if they want to avoid the pain that ordinary Illinoisans suffer. So hopefully that gets some traction and people can use it to write or to research or to ask questions or to point out just how bad things are, whether that's crime or free speech, the whole energy boondoggle, all those things. We're the extreme on most things, of course, competing with California.
Oh, yes. Speaking of competitions, J.B. Pritzker, it looks like he lost. He's not going to be the vice presidential running mate for Kamala Harris. Did you think that they were just stringing him along because he's hosting the DNC here in 2 weeks?
Well, I mean, it could be. I mean, don't forget he's got lots of money, and they probably weren't sure how the whole money thing was going to go. And of course, it's gone really well for the Democrats with the hundreds of millions they've raised. But they need him as a good ally. He's been for Biden, as we've talked about, he's been a great loyalist on all those far left issues on Safety Act and no bail to the energy bills and all that. So he's a good ally. They need him, and I imagine that they want to keep him close.
This
Hey,
just
Ted-
came over the transom.
Yeah,
Tim
CNN.
Walz is going to be Kamala Harris's running mate because Josh Shapiro's Jewish. So
Yeah,
can't be him.
According to CNN, they said Harris picks Minnesota Governor Tim Walz to be her running mate. Oh my gosh!
Well, there you go.
That's
So
This is-
Pritzker can get back to focusing on Illinois now.
This
so-
is a man.
Yes.
Who, oh,
so-
that's right.
Yes, right.
He's
Thank
having a
God.
press conference at 10 a.m. this morning, so we knew it wasn't him. Just so you know, Tim Walz changed the Minnesota state flag. It now looks like the Somalian flag.
Yeah, I remember us
a few months
discussing
ago.
that. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's
He's so woke.
very inclusive.
Backed by Bernie Sanders and Nancy Pelosi, and the UAW supports him. So, wow. Okay. Let the games begin.
Big news. I mean, I don't know why you're like
This is-
what was the phrase that Axelrod used? Irrational exuberance, irrational interest. What is so exciting about this?
I think because I'm glad she did not pick Shapiro,
Yeah.
because this ticket could not be any lefter. Oof.
Ted, in Chicago news, big story yesterday, another success. 4.5 years late, yes, but that's a rounding error. We're very happy to announce that the Damon station of the Green Line has reopened after nearly
Stop.
80 years.
Stop.
And
Wow.
BLM Brandon himself deigned to ride that Green Line and celebrate the opening of the station. Now, it did cost $82 million, which was about $43 million over budget, 4.5 years late. But again, I'm not really concerned about the money or the time or the graft. We've got another beautiful, beautiful CTA station, and I hope there'll be some musical accompaniment, maybe like a 4 a.m. dance club, since we've got the DJ booth at 95th and Western. Anyway, I just wanted to share in that positive news. We're always looking for positive things. This is, again, improving the transit options on the near west side, and I'll give you the floor to compliment BLM Brandon on his accomplishment.
Well, it's another one of those big achievements, and we should highlight it. I'll tell you what's interesting with all this money. Yesterday for me was a big thing for Chicago, and we'll have to keep an eye on it depending on how these markets do. But Chicago doesn't have enough money for all that it wants to do at the city level or at CPS level, and then you see these stock markets start to correct tremendously. If we get back to some kind of stock market correction that's painful, watch out for Chicago, because all this stuff that disappeared, all the scary financial risks that Chicago faced 4 years ago will come back. We'll have to keep an eye on that, because I think that's going to be the next big thing to look at. The numbers aren't going to work.
Well, thankfully we have stewards of the taxpayer dollar like Jelly Belly and BLM Brandon. For difficult times, it's good to have those steady hands on the public purse, wouldn't you say?
Well, they're both going to be in trouble because Illinois faces the same problems. Maybe Chicago's are a little bit more acute, but watch out.
Ted Dabrowski, President Wirepoints, wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related. Thanks, Ted.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
This is an urgent announcement for anyone that's $10,000 or more in debt. Before you make another minimum payment, you need to know there are special programs that can completely free you of your debt. Total Financial Freedom can help you become debt-free in months instead of years. Resolve your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and timeshares. Call now at 800-533-6605 for a free consultation. For 17 years, Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands get out of debt. You can